Discover the incredible, heartwarming moment when she jumped into a stranger's arms, an unexpected connection of two lost souls. The 4th of July was supposed to be a celebration, but for Sarah, each spark of color in the sky felt more like a punch to the gut. The laughter of families echoed around her like a constant reminder of everything she had lost. At 28, she was a waitress at the local diner, struggling to keep her younger brother, Tommy, afloat after their mother's tragic passing. Bills piled up, and any hope of relief felt like a distant dream. She forced a smile as she served fries and burgers, but the joy of the holiday felt trapped behind her tired eyes. As the town bustled with cheerful prep, Sarah stood at the diner's window, taking in the shimmering lights strung across Main Street. The grill sizzled dynamically, and children squealed in excitement. But behind that festive scene lay a knot in her stomach, heavier than usual. Financial strain consumed her thoughts. What if the car broke down? What if Tommy needed new shoes? As the crowd danced in sparkling festivities, her heart sunk deeper into memories of laughter from nights gone by. Yet, amidst this storm of emotions, the sky erupted with festive colors. Sarah hesitated for just a moment, torn between hopelessness and the pull of celebration. When she saw him, Jake, rugged and intense, standing alone at the edge of the crowd. Recent military service hadn't dulled his spirit, but it hadn't washed away the isolation he felt either. She noticed his eyes scanning the crowd. He, too, carried burdens disguised beneath a facade of calm. Suddenly, a shrill cry ripped through the night. "My son! Where is he?" A helpless mother stood frozen, panic washing over her. In that moment, Sarah and Jake locked eyes across the chaos. Something electrifying passed between them, as if the profound fears and responsibilities they each carried merged momentarily. They surged forward together, instinct taking over. "Everyone, help! A boy is missing!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. A rush of warmth filled her, a glimmer of unity. Jake nodded, determination flickering in his gaze. The crowd began to mobilize, friends and neighbors sprinting alongside them, scattering in search of the child. Time dragged on painfully as tension escalated. The growing crowd buzzed with anxiety. Voices grew louder, frustration brewing. But through it all, Sarah felt an undeniable courage welling within her. She and Jake took charge, creating search parties, moving through the throngs of cheerful chaos. Each shout for the child echoed their personal fears. Finally, the dark clouds hung heavy as shadows crept in, dimming the kaleidoscope of fireworks. Just when hope threatened to crumble, a voice rang out, "I found him." Relief flooded the crowd, and Sarah felt the world spin as joy erupted again. Overpowered by emotion, she jumped into Jake's arms without thinking. In that moment, she felt weightless, forgetting her burdens, her fears, feeling safe. As the town erupted into cheers, Sarah and Jake shared a glimmering connection bathed in light. But as they slowly released each other, reality crept back and those unresolved fears lingered. Would they find a way to move past their struggles? Could they build a future despite the shadows of their pasts? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As confetti drifted through the air, both felt the weight of unspoken possibility. Perhaps, just perhaps, this chance encounter during turmoil could spark the healing they desperately needed. Could they summon the courage to face the uncertainty together? Only time would tell. Standing at the precipice of change, both felt that something profound was about to begin. Sarah stood there, still trembling from the rush of emotions flooding through her. The weight of the moment hung in her chest, a perfect cocktail of relief and anxiety. A child was safe, but what about her? What about Jake? Both were left with fragments of hope, broken yet intact. The crowd began to disperse, their cheers still echoing in the summer night. Fireworks exploded overhead, illuminating the sky in vibrant bursts while shadows danced in the corners of Sarah's mind. Every colorful eruption reminded her how quickly things could change, and she felt it deep down in her bones. "Are you okay?" Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, a soft but commanding presence that grounded her. He stood close, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her heart race again. I think so," she stammered, battling the overwhelming urge to spill everything, the worry, the grief, the chaos of her life. Instead, she offered a small smile, a flicker of something more than just gratitude. Jake's brows furrowed, as if he could sense the weight on her shoulders. "You did something amazing back there. It was heroic." Her cheeks flushed. "I just did what felt right," she replied, avoiding his gaze. The word heroic felt too big to apply to her, especially when she felt so lost. A group of revelers jostled past them, laughter swirling like the fireworks above. But for Sarah and Jake, the world around them faded as they stood in this suspended bubble of uncertainty. "Why are you alone tonight?" Jake asked, and she sensed the unease in his tone. It mirrored her own solitude. Her heart caught. My brother and I," she hesitated, suddenly unsure of how much to reveal, when the edges of pain threatened to spill over. There was a raw honesty about him, but she worried that sharing her struggles would chase him away. "Family, huh?" he said, nodding slightly as he read her hesitation. "I understand. I lost mine too in a way." Jake's voice turned softer, almost wistful. "What do you mean?" He inhaled deeply, looking towards the sky as a firework burst overhead. "I came back from serving in the military and—" His voice trailed off, and she saw a flicker of hurt dart across his features. He continued, "Everything just changed. I felt like a stranger in my own life." Sarah felt every word resonate within her. She could relate. It was a different kind of loss, but still it brought them closer in an inexplicable way. The loneliness that wrapped around both of them weighed heavy, yet felt less isolating in this moment. "I just want to make sure Tommy's okay. That he has a future," she admitted, the words tumbling out like a release. "I'm scared I'll fail him." Jake took a step closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You won't fail him. You're stronger than you think. It takes a lot of heart to be here, doing what you do." Her breath caught. Encouragement was rare, and coming from him, it felt monumental. She felt seen, for the first time in a long while, amidst the surrounding chaos. "Thank you," she whispered, suddenly feeling as if she could share this burden with someone who understood. As the last of the fireworks faded, the world around them seemed to dim too. But in that shared silence, in that simple connection forged by heartache and hope, Sarah felt the budding of something new, something worth exploring. But what would it mean to let someone in? The questions loomed large as she searched Jake's gaze, the flickering of uncertainty hanging thick in the air. The night had woven their fates together, but the path ahead was still obscured. She wondered if she had the strength to find out. Would she dare to reach out and build something deeper amidst the fears and burdens they each carried? Jake's gaze lingered on Sarah, a palpable intensity hanging between them like the smoke from the fading fireworks. In that moment, time seemed to stretch, the laughter and chatter of the crowd fading into a dull murmur. All that existed was the unspoken connection growing in the quiet. "Would you like to sit?" he asked, gesturing towards a small bench nearby. She nodded, her heart pounding louder than ever. The bench was old and weathered, perfectly imperfect, just like her life. They sat side by side, the coolness of the metal contrasting with the warmth radiating from him. "What is your brother like?" Jake broke the silence, his voice gentle, encouraging her to open up. "Tommy, right?" Sarah's gaze drifted, searching the shadows for something she couldn't quite grasp. He has everything to me. Just turned 8 last week. Loves dinosaurs and drawing." The image of Tommy's bright smile crept into her mind, the way he would bounce around with energy, his laughter ringing like music. "That's pretty cool. I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid too," Jake replied, and she noticed the way his eyes softened, making room for the memories. "It feels like I'm always trying to keep him safe. Like I have to protect him from everything," she confessed, the weight of her worries spilling over like a dam breaching its walls. "I worry I'm not enough." "You are enough," Jake asserted, turning to face her. "You showed that tonight. It's clear you care deeply. Just caring is a great start." Was it really that simple? She wanted to believe him, but around her, the world felt chaotic and unpredictable. The night air chilled slightly, and Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, almost wishing she could bundle up every fear and doubt inside. Jake noticed. He hesitated for a fleeting moment before taking off his jacket and offering it to her. "Here, take this." Unexpected warmth flooded her, not just from his jacket but from the act itself. "Thank you," she murmured, pulling it around her shoulders. The scent of him lingered, a mix of cedar and something akin to home, driving away the shadows for just a moment. "Your brother must be lucky to have you," he said, a soft smile appearing on his lips. She glanced at him, studying the corners of his mouth and the earnestness in his eyes. "I guess I just don't want him to feel alone like I do," she said suddenly, wishing she could take those words back. But they were out there, raw and vulnerable, floating in the space between them. "No one should feel alone," Jake replied, his tone steady and firm. "And you don't have to feel that way. Not anymore." Her heart raced again, these words they were exchanging settling in deep. It felt risky to consider, but something in the air between them hinted that there was more to explore. They exchanged stories for a while, their laughter stitching together the spaces that once felt empty. Time blurred, as if they were two souls in a world all their own. But as the clouds drifted in and the stars twinkled uncertainly overhead, a loud siren pierced through the night, jolting her from this fleeting moment of joy. Sarah's heart dropped. She thought of Tommy, the panic rising like smoke in her chest. "What is wrong?" Jake asked, his expression shifting to concern. "I need to check on him," she said, already standing up. The warmth of the night disappeared as urgency swept over her. "Wait. I'll come with you," Jake offered, quick on his feet. "No, it's okay," she insisted, fear edging her voice. What happened next would be crucial. "I'll be fine." But as she turned to leave, part of her wondered. Would she be okay? And would Jake manage to slip through the cracks of her heart, joining the fears she had locked away for so long? The night was thick with questions, and as she rushed away, one thing lingered. She didn't want to leave him behind. Not quite yet. Could she allow him in? Or would the walls she built for protection push him away? The answers seemed to cloud her heart like the night sky, and she couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to change yet again. The night felt heavier as Sarah hurried down the winding path, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the stillness. Each hurried breath was laced with anxiety as she thought of Tommy, the sirens still ringing in her ears. What could have happened? The joy she had felt moments before was a distant memory. As she reached the edge of the park, the lights from the nearby buildings flickered, casting eerie shadows on the ground. Sarah's mind raced. Should she have let Jake come with her? Did his offer mean more than just wanting to help, or was it a genuine concern that spoke to a connection she couldn't ignore? Pushing those thoughts aside, she crossed the street, her heart pounding in rhythm to the quick, frantic pace of her steps. "Hang on, Tommy," she whispered under her breath. She could almost hear him, could see his boundless energy, darting around with the excitement that all kids had. The thought of him in trouble was like a stone sinking deep into her chest. When she rounded the corner of their block, the sight of their building came into view. It loomed in the shadows like an unwelcome reminder of everything she was trying to protect. But then she noticed something: the blinding lights of an ambulance parked outside the front entrance. Panic coursed through her. She rushed forward, her feet suddenly feeling like lead as fear gripped her mind. Was Tommy okay? Was he hurt? As she approached, her eyes locked onto a familiar figure. Her neighbor, Mrs. Reddick, stood on the steps, her face lined with worry. Sarah's breath quickened as she called out, "Mrs. Reddick." What happened? Mrs. Reddick turned, her expression shifting from shock to relief. "Oh, Sarah. Thank God you're here." The elderly woman stepped forward, her voice trembling. "It's your brother. He slipped in the bathroom, but he's awake now. They're checking him for any serious injuries." Relief washed over Sarah, sending adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Can I see him?" "Yes, yes. Just a moment." Mrs. Reddick motioned her to follow, guiding her towards the entrance. Inside, the warmth of the building enveloped her as she rushed past the paramedics, her heart pounding in anticipation. She found Tommy in the living room, surrounded by the fluorescent glow of lights, a bandage wrapped around his arm. He looked a bit dazed but was awake, sitting on the couch, fiddling with a toy dinosaur. "Tommy!" she cried, rushing to him. She knelt beside him, her heart filled with a mix of relief and worry. "What happened?" "I fell," he replied, his voice small but steady. "But I'm okay. I was just playing." His smile was bright and innocent, a stark contrast to the tension that had consumed her moments before. Sarah brushed a strand of hair away from his forehead, checking him over with her eyes. "You scared me. You need to be careful." She hugged him tightly, tears pricking at the edges of her vision, the last remnants of fear giving way to overwhelming love. "I will, I promise." He giggled, wriggling a bit in her embrace. Just then, she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she saw Jake standing in the doorway, his expression serious, but softening when he saw her and Tommy. "I came as soon as I heard. Are you both okay?" "Yeah," she replied, her voice a mix of gratitude and warmth. "Thanks for everything." The moment, so simple yet profound, shifted the air between them. In that fraction of a second, the walls Sarah had built around her heart began to crack, making space for something new, something that felt like trust. Jake approached, kneeling beside her and Tommy. "I'm glad he's okay," he said, his gaze drifting between them. Sarah felt a rush of emotion. Here was a man who had shown kindness and support without expectation, a stark contrast to her fears of being abandoned. Could it be that he might stay around long enough to help her confront her struggles, not just as a stranger but as someone she could lean on? But as the paramedics finished their checks and Tommy babbled about dinosaurs again, Sarah knew she'd have to confront not only her worries for Tommy, but also the feelings swirling in her heart for Jake. The night had reshaped her fears and hopes, pulling them taut like strings about to break. And just like that, she wondered, could she really let someone into her life, into her heart, when everything felt so uncertain? As she caught Jake's concerned gaze, the question hung in the air: what would it take for her to truly open up and embrace the change that was knocking at her door? Sarah's heart raced, not just from the shock of finding Tommy safe, but from the weight of the emotions that pressed down on her. She shifted her focus back to her brother, who was now excitedly sharing details about his epic fall and how his toy dinosaur had been the hero of the moment. "Can I hold him? The dinosaur, I mean?" Tommy asked, his eyes wide, a hint of adventure blooming on his face, as if he had defeated a dragon, not just slipped on the bathroom floor. "Of course. Just be careful with him," Sarah smiled, her voice softening. But her mind wasn't entirely on Tommy. Jake was still watching from the doorway, a faint smile lighting up his face as he observed the sibling bond that radiated warmth and security. Something about his presence felt grounding. It was strange, yet comforting. For a moment, Sarah captured his gaze, an unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. What was it about Jake that made her feel safe? Was it his consistent support or the way he didn't flinch at the chaos of her life? The paramedics gave one last check and, satisfied, they packed their bags and promised to follow up if any symptoms arose. As they exited, the echo of the ambulance sound fading into the night, Sarah thought about how the near miss with Tommy had called into question everything she thought she understood about her family and what it meant to rely on someone. Tommy matter-of-factly recounted his adventure, while Sarah's thoughts spun like leaves in a gust. She kept glancing at Jake, unsure of what to say or how to feel. Jumbled emotions churned within her, battling hope and fear. "Are you sure you're okay?" Jake finally broke the silence, stepping closer to where Sarah and Tommy sat. His voice was rich with concern, and it sent little shivers down her spine. "Yeah, just a little shaken up," she admitted, taking a breath to steady herself. "But I'm really glad Tommy's okay." "You handled that like a champ," he said, a teasing lightness creeping into his tone. You should definitely put that on your resume. A bubble of laughter escaped her lips, surprising even herself. It felt good to laugh. In that fleeting moment, the weight of the world lifted just a little, and for the first time, Sarah didn't feel as alone. Thanks, Jake, she said softly, for coming check on us. You didn't have to, but I'm glad you did. His eyes sparkled, and she could see the sincerity in his smile. That's what friends are for, right? The air shifted again, and suddenly Sarah felt the urge to reach out, to bridge the distance that her guarded heart had kept between them. But insecurities crept in, whispering doubts in her ear. Was she really ready to let him in? Tommy, oblivious to the silent conversation weaving around him, grabbed both their hands, pulling them closer. Can we watch a dinosaur movie now? I need to see if I can learn some new tricks. Faced with a sudden, light-hearted distraction, Sarah chuckled, watching as Tommy animatedly expressed his desire. Sure, buddy. Let us do it. Jake chuckled, seeming relieved to redirect the atmosphere, and joined them on the couch, his presence comforting. As they settled in, Sarah felt a flicker of movement around her heart, like wind finding a crack in a door. But the echo of uncertainty still lingered. How much longer could she keep pretending everything was okay when inside, she felt like a storm was brewing? As the movie began, Sarah tried to sink into the moment, to enjoy Tommy's laughter and Jake's easy smile beside her, but the question loomed larger than the flickering screen. What would it truly take for her to let go of her fears and embrace this unexpected connection? The images danced before her, but her thoughts drifted. What new revelations would come with the next dawn, and would she be ready to face them? The movie hummed in the background, the vibrant colors washing over the living room, but Sarah found herself unable to focus completely. Tommy was enchanted by the screen, eagerly guessing what the dinosaurs would do next. Each roar and dramatic chase made him giggle, adding to the lightness of the moment. But for Sarah, the laughter felt like an echo rather than a melody. Jake leaned back against the couch, giving her a sideways glance. You okay? He murmured softly. His concern wrapped around her like a warm blanket, and for a second, she leaned into it, grateful for his presence. Just thinking, she said, forcing a smile. You know how it is. Yeah, but sometimes it helps to share the load, he replied, resting his hand lightly on the arm of the couch, as if inviting her to bridge that invisible gap in their connection. Sarah's heart raced at his words. A part of her wanted desperately to spill everything, the weight of her fears, the burden of hiding her worries. But another part of her, the one used to carrying her own load, kicked in. I've got things under control, she reassured him, even though she felt anything but. The dinosaurs on the screen took flight, and Tommy cheered, clapping his hands. Did you see that, Sarah? They are the best. His enthusiasm was infectious, and she couldn't help but smile genuinely, her worries momentarily fading as she watched her brother. But deep inside, the fear was still there, lurking in shadows. Hey Tommy, Jake said, diverting his attention gracefully, what's your favorite dinosaur? Pterodactyl. Tommy shouted. Because they can fly. Can I be your dinosaur buddy? Jake teased, flapping his arms like wings. This sent Tommy into fits of laughter, and for a brief moment, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope of normalcy, even if it was fleeting, but then that glimmer dimmed as the thoughts crept back, heavier than before. What would happen if she let herself depend on someone? Could she really lean on Jake without shattering the fragile coping mechanism she had built? For a moment, she glanced at him, his warmth pouring out, his playful spirit making her heart swell and ache simultaneously. Would opening up her heart lead to vulnerability, or was it the key to a new kind of safety? Are you two gonna join the dinosaur club, or am I the only one? Tommy's infectious giggle pulled Sarah back into the room, reminding her of the real magic of the night. Jake shrugged dramatically, a teasing smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Well, I think I could give it a shot. But only if you promise to teach me the dinosaur dance. Sarah found herself laughing again, a genuine sound that surprised her. Maybe laughter was the bridge she needed. Maybe being vulnerable wouldn't mean falling apart, but could lead to building something new. As the movie played on, Sarah felt her heart start to soften. Maybe she would take that leap, maybe it was time. Tommy's cheeks were flushed with excitement, and she felt an undeniable urge to wrap her arms around him, to protect this sweet, shining light from all the storms of life. Suddenly it felt like everything else faded into the background. But just as she thought she'd made her decision, her phone buzzed fiercely on the coffee table, the screen lighting up with a message that froze her blood. "Can you pick up some milk on the way home? I need it for breakfast tomorrow," the message from her mother read. The weight of her reality crashed back down, hard and unforgiving. Sarah's heart sank. How could she focus on new connections when old responsibilities loomed so large? Was it selfish to feel like she needed more than just survival? "Oh, trouble's brewing," Jake said, glancing at her expression. His observant eyes noticed everything, even the small shifts that were barely noticeable. "What's wrong?" Tommy asked, furrowing his brow. Sarah took a deep breath, torn between the warmth of the moment and the cold reminder of her obligations. "Just a text from Mom," she said reluctantly, trying to brush it off. Nothing major. But inside, she felt the knot tighten. Would they ever be able to talk about the heavy stuff? Would admitting her struggles push them away or pull them closer? Jake leaned in, his expression serious but gentle. "You can talk to me, Sarah. You don't have to carry everything alone." But could she? As the colors from the movie flickered around her, Sarah felt the weight of those words hang in the air. Everything was about to change. Would she find the courage to share her burdens? Or would the walls she built around her heart continue to keep her isolated? The ticking seconds stretched before her like a path leading into uncharted territory. She could either choose to walk it or stay hidden in a familiar darkness. The choice loomed ahead, and she couldn't ignore it. What would she choose when push came to shove? The night seemed to whisper the answer just out of reach. Tommy clapped his hands again, clearly unaware of the storm brewing in his sister's heart. "What's next, Sarah? Can we make our own dinosaur movie after this?" His innocence struck her like a bolt. How could she tell him she was drowning under the weight of responsibilities that should have been hers to bear alone? For a moment, she considered the impact of her decision on Tommy's bright spirit. "I think that's a great idea," she replied, her fingers brushing through his hair as he grinned up at her, his excitement bringing a brief sense of relief. She wanted nothing more than to dive into that imaginary world with him, but the reality loomed over her like dark clouds. Jake shifted closer, his eyes scanning her face. The concern in his gaze felt both comforting and like a spotlight. He wasn't just a friend tonight. He was a potential ally, and she felt the conflict surge within her. "You sure you're all right?" he asked again, softer this time. "Yeah, I just feel a little overwhelmed." Her voice trembled, even as the words tried to escape, like she's letting out a flutter of hope. She could feel the walls around her heart shaking, a gentle tremor that promised change. Jake nodded, leaning in, his expression sincere. "Let's take a break from the dinosaurs then. How about a snack? Candy?" Tommy shouted, as if it were the only option that mattered. With a chuckle, Sarah ruffled Tommy's hair before answering. "I think we can manage that." As they made their way to the kitchen, Sarah's mind was racing. Could she allow herself to breathe, to lighten the load? The bright room felt like a stage for decisions yet to come. Her fingers clutched the counter's edge, and she realized that being vulnerable might not mean losing control, but gaining support. "Do you want any candy?" Jake asked, pulling her from her reverie. "No, I'm good," she said, though the softness in her voice betrayed her nerves. A silence draped them for a moment, as if the air around them held its breath. "Sarah, I'm your friend," Jake said finally, his tone earnest. "Whatever you're feeling, it's okay to share it. I won't judge." His words lingered, floating in the air like a lifeline. She could almost take hold of it, almost. But doubt slithered back in, whispering that honesty might expose her fragility. Was she strong enough to risk the potential for rejection? What if she doesn't want to hear it? A small voice deep inside her echoed the doubts. Tommy burst into the kitchen, eyes wide. "Look, I found gummy dinosaurs." "Of course you did." Jake rolled his eyes playfully, then looked back at Sarah with a smile that warmed her heart. "See? Nothing bad can happen when you have dinosaurs," he smiled, teasing her as he handed Tommy a handful of the gummies. She watched the two interact, that playful spirit clinging to every morsel of joy. Maybe she could tap into that lightness. "Hey, do you guys want to make a dinosaur dance video as well?" she suggested suddenly, hope flaring stronger. "Yes!" Tommy shouted with glee, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Jake looked surprised but intrigued. "Sure. I'm always up for a goofy dance." As they filmed their impromptu dance, laughter filled the air, washing away the lingering shadows. Sarah could feel herself loosening, each silliness pulling at the tightness inside her. Yet, the looming text from her mother nagged at the back of her mind. What did it mean for her to ask for help when life outside this moment felt so heavy? "Okay, one more time," Tommy said, and they reset the scene. Sarah realized the laughter didn't just come from her brother, it came from the very essence of life. It felt alive, vibrant. Would embracing these moments help her find a way through the reality waiting just beyond this night? "I'll be right back," she finally blurted, excuse lighting the air. "I need to check something." "All right," Jake replied, still smiling, but his gaze shifted, uncertainty creeping in. As Sarah stepped out to the porch for air, the moonlight illuminated the path ahead. The night felt both comforting and daunting. Would the future hold more moments like this? Or were her struggles destined to remain in the shadows? But before she could catch her breath, her phone buzzed again, pulling her back to uncertainty. The answer awaited her. Would she unlock her heart and share her burden, or retreat into her old habits? Sarah hesitated, looking up toward the stars. The decision shaped not just her night, but the path forward. Could this be the moment she truly stepped out? The world seemed to whisper there was so much at stake. Would she push through or stay entrenched in fear? The answer felt just beyond her reach. Sarah's heart raced as she stared at her phone. The screen lit up, words glaring back at her. The latest message from her mom felt like an anchor, dragging her deeper into uncertainty. She couldn't read it. Not yet. Taking a deep breath, she turned her gaze to the starry sky. The moon hung low, casting a warm glow over the yard. It was stunning, a blanket of twinkling hope. She tried to cling to it, wishing that twinkling could armor her against the weight pressing down on her shoulders. "Sarah?" Jake's voice called from the doorway, pulling her from her thoughts. She turned to see him standing there, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Tommy was just behind him, a gummy dinosaur still clutched between his tiny fingers. "Everything okay?" Jake's eyes searched hers, and she could feel the connection between them tightening like a thread about to snap. "Yeah, just needed a minute," she said, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. The way he looked at her made her want to spill everything. The fears about her mom, the worries about being responsible for Tommy, how she felt so alone some days. But could she really do it? Could she risk sharing when everything felt so tangled inside her? "Want to come back inside?" Tommy asked, his innocence illuminating the gloom threatening to devour her. "We're about to start the dance party." A laugh escaped her, lightening the tension. "You mean another dance video with your gummy dinosaurs?" "Yes." Tommy danced, nearly losing his balance. "All right," she said, feeling a wave of warmth wash over her. "Let us do it." As they re-entered the house, laughter filled the air once more. They gathered in the living room, the world outside fading away. With her phone propped up, Jake hit record, and they began to move to the silly music blaring from the speaker. It felt freeing, their limbs flailing without a care. She watched Tommy hop around, his laughter contagious. Jake joined in, following the child's lead and letting loose. Sarah's heart lightened as the rhythm picked up. In that moment, surrounded by silliness, the ticking clock of her worries faded just a little. The song ended, and they collapsed onto the couch, breathless and smiling. "That was awesome!" Tommy exclaimed, his cheeks flushed with excitement. Jake looked over at Sarah, his smile softening. "You really have a knack for getting him hyped." "Maybe we should have more dance parties," she replied, her heart fluttering at the idea. It felt wild, but good, just like the carefree moments they had just shared. But as the giggles subsided, The heavy silence once again seeped into the air. Sarah's mind flickered back to her mother's earlier message. What would she say? What did she actually feel? She could feel herself teetering on the edge of a precipice. Would she jump into the unknown or retreat? Hey, can I ask you something? Jake broke the silence, his curiosity clear. You seem a little off tonight. Is it something we can talk about? The moment hung there, thick and inviting. Did he notice the battle she was waging within? Panic rippled through her. Just family stuff, she managed to say, but even the admission felt heavy. She wasn't convincing anyone, least of all herself. I get it. Family stuff can be intense. He paused, his gaze steady. But you don't have to face it alone, you know. The walls around her heart shifted again. Hope flickered, but hesitated to catch fire. Would opening up change things? What if she let him in and it all became too much? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed in her pocket. The belligerent chime broke the moment, pulling her closer to reality. What is it? Tommy asked, eyes wide with interest. Huh? Oh, it's nothing, she said, her voice unsteady. Open it. See. He was bouncing now, the sheer thrill of discovery evident on his face. Sarah bit her lip, staring at the device. Did she have it in her to face whatever awaited her? With trembling hands, she pulled it out. The anxiety swelled inside her, a tidal wave ready to crash over her. Whatever was on that screen felt like a turning point, and she could almost hear the whisper of fate. This was it. What she saw could either weave the tapestry of unity or unravel everything around her. Just read it, Sarah, Jake urged softly, leaning forward as if he could absorb some of her fear. Could her heart take it? She glanced at the two of them, Tommy's eager eyes, Jake's unwavering support. For the first time tonight, she felt like part of something bigger, like the night sky held answers just for her. Okay. I will, she whispered, clicking the message open. The instant she read the words, a chill shot through her. What she found simmered just below the surface, ready to ignite. Would she ever be prepared for what was coming next? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the screen, eyes wide. The words blurred for a moment, and she blinked, trying to steady herself. Anger, sorrow, and a confusing mix of emotions swirled inside her. Her mother's message had been simple yet devastating. I need to talk. Can you come home? Are you okay? Jake's voice broke through her fog, warmth threading through concern. Just then, the front door creaked. Sarah's grandmother walked in, the lines on her face deepening with every passing year. Is everything all right, Sarah? She asked, taking in the atmosphere. Sarah replied automatically, but it wasn't particularly convincing. Her grandmother's gaze shifted from Sarah to Tommy, whose innocent face was still lit with excitement from the dance party. What about the dance party? She asked, a mischievous glint in her eye. Tommy jumped up, waving his dinosaur. Dance party. Dance party. Exactly. We just finished an amazing round. Jake said, trying to lift everyone's spirits, his hand gently squeezing Sarah's knee. The warmth of his touch contrasted the chill that enveloped her heart. Forcing a smile, Sarah tried to focus on the moment, the love radiating from the people around her. Want to join us, Grandma? She asked, her voice firmer than she felt. Why not? Who doesn't love a good dance? Her grandmother chuckled, shrugging off her jacket. As they filled the room with laughter and silly moves, Sarah felt a bittersweet ache for her mother. Memories washed over her dancing in the kitchen, laughter echoing off tiles. Her mom's reassuring presence. Where had that gone? Sarah. Dance. No more thinking. Tommy yanked on her sleeve, breaking her from the reverie. Okay. Sarah laughed, joining in. With every step, the music acted like a balm on her worries, if just for a moment. But the moment the music faded, the silence returned, heavy. Tommy scampered off to grab a snack, leaving just Jake and Sarah, their shared silence pulsing with unspoken thoughts. Hey, he spoke softly, sensing her hesitation. You don't have to go through this alone. What if I mess it all up? She whispered, glancing down at her phone again, the message looming large. Then we'll deal with it together. You and me against the world, remember? His optimism felt like a lifebuoy in the midst of a storm, but would it hold? Her mind quickly filled with the thought of her mom's disappointment, the burden waiting at home. It's just hard. I know. Just promise me you'll talk about it when you're ready, he said gently. The words nudged against her defenses, stirring something deep inside. She wanted so badly to let Jake in, to share the weight pressing against her heart. But what if he couldn't carry it with her? Just as she opened her mouth to speak, Tommy burst back into the room, excitement radiating from him. I'm making glow bracelets. Who wants to help? Sarah chuckled, tension easing momentarily. Count me in. Jake grinned. I'm always down for glow bracelets. As they set up the crafts, moving through the colorful beads and strings, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was stalling. The truth was there, hovering in the corners of her mind like an unwanted guest. Would the comfort of crafting and laughter be enough to shelter her? Feeling the warmth of Jake at her side, her heart raced again, not from fear but from the connection they were building. Perhaps, just maybe, she could learn to share these pieces of herself. But before she could commit to that thought, her phone chimed again. The new message was from her mother, and dread pooled in her stomach. She read the words, her hands suddenly trembling. Sarah, we need to talk about your dad. The world around her grew still, and everything she had so carefully held together began to unravel. Would she be able to face the truth about her family? Sarah? Jake's voice pulled her back to reality. What is it? She hesitated, uncertain whether to reveal what had been hidden. What would unfold if she spoke now? Hold on, just give me a second, she said, the truth teetering on the brink, ready to spill over like a wave crashing against a fragile shore. Could she finally take the leap? Or would fear keep her anchored down forever? Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down as she stared at her phone, the new message from her mother shaking her to the core. We need to talk about your dad. Those words surged within her, sending a wave of dread through her heart. Everything she had built her fragile world upon seemed to tremble, ready to crumble at any moment. Sarah? Jake's gentle voice broke through the storm of her thoughts. He was waiting, his eyes searching her face for answers, concern etched into his features. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The air thickened as the words churned in her mind like an angry sea, threatening to pull her under. Could she really share this with him? What is it? He pressed softly, concern woven through every syllable. An unexpected warmth radiated from his presence, wrapping around her like a soothing balm. Taking a deep breath, she felt herself teetering on the edge of what it meant to be vulnerable. Could she do it? It was one thing to share joy and laughter, but this deeper truth felt terrifying. Just it's about my family, she finally whispered, feeling a mix of fear and relief wash over her. My mom, she texted me. She wants to talk about my dad. With those words floated an entire ocean of buried emotions, crashing against the walls she had built, each wave pounding harder than the last. Jake shifted closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. You don't have to talk about it now, but whenever you're ready, I'm here. His understanding curled around her heart like a warm embrace, urging her to let the walls fall. Tommy darted back into the room, waving a handful of colorful glow bracelets, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. Look, look. Can we wear them while dancing, please? He begged, his eyes shining with excitement. Yes, let us do it. Sarah exclaimed, grateful for the distraction. Even as her heart remained heavy with uncertainty, they quickly adorned themselves with the glow bracelets, the colors radiating against the dimmed light of the living room. As the music kicked back in and laughter filled the space, Sarah found herself oscillating between joy and anxiety. Each laugh felt like a brief rallying cry against the overwhelming tide of despair that threatened to wash over her. Jake caught her eye again. Are you all right, really? He asked, a sincerity in his gaze that both reassured and frightened her. I want you to know you can trust me. Tears prickled at the edges of her eyes. Could she really let someone in? Suddenly, the reality of her burdens felt less suffocating in the company of Jake and Tommy. Just for a moment, she dared to imagine what it would look like to be honest about everything weighing her down. Jake, she said, her voice trembling as she took a hesitant step forward. I think I'm ready to talk." The music faded around them as she prepared to share her heart, the truth spilling out in a rush. "It's just, everything feels so heavy right now. My dad, he hasn't been around for a long time. My mom is struggling and I'm scared. Scared of failing Tommy, scared of carrying all this alone." Jake's expression softened, and he slid closer, encouraging her with his presence. "You're not alone, Sarah. You don't have to be. Families aren't just about blood. You have me and Tommy. We're your family too." Something shifted inside her, a crack opening in the wall built around her heart. Could she allow that truth to seep in? Would it take her closer to healing? Tommy's laughter echoed in the background, a reminder of innocence blooming against the weight of adult fears. "Dinosaur dance," he called out, pulling them back into the joyous moment. For the first time in what felt like ages, Sarah smiled genuinely. "Okay, let us dance." As they busted moves around the room and cheered each other on, she felt the burden start to lift, tiny bits of fear sprinkled away with each rhythm. Maybe facing her family truths wouldn't mean falling apart, but rising into something better. Through the wild movements and laughter, she sensed the lightness growing, pushing away the shadows of her doubts. Perhaps she could face what lay ahead together with Jake, with Tommy, and with her own strength. As the night danced forward, Sarah understood life was never just a smooth path and the struggles would always be there. But perhaps love, friendship, and facing fears could create a beautiful mosaic amidst the chaos, transforming isolation into connection. And as the music filled the room again, swaying them into giggles and lightness, the dawning realization washed over Sarah. A new chapter had begun, and she was finally ready to embrace it. You need to subscribe now to this channel because the upcoming stories are going to be even more incredible. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people discover these heartwarming transformations. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending Your Words Matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of hope. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support and be part of this journey.